What do you mean you missed your flight? I need you to find me a model to escort me to the ball tonight immediately.
I'm on it, boss. Mr. Tariq, I have exhausted all options. We couldn't find a date.
Nadia, I have a proposal for you.
Mr. Kashif really puts us in the strangest situations.
Oh, surely she isn't that bad.
Oh, good Lord.
May Allah have mercy on us.
If that trashy hag thinks she can outshine me, she has another thing coming.
Tariq Al-Rashid couldn't stop staring at the mirror. 6 months. 182 days since Soraya Al-Mazin had left him at the altar in front of 500 guests from the Arab elite. Since she had run off with a European prince while he waited like a fool on an altar of marble and gold. Since his life became an international punchline repeated in every gossip rag, the sheikh who wasn't enough. He clenched his jaw with brutal force. Today would be different. Today, at the Grand Royal Gala in Dubai, the most significant event on the social calendar, he would prove he had moved on, that he had won, that he was desirable, powerful, and absolutely untouchable. Isabella Montero was en route from Paris, international supermodel, $50,000 a night, a body that made kings abdicate thrones. She was his perfect weapon of revenge. She would walk into the ball on his arm, and Soraya would die of jealousy seeing that he hadn't just moved on, he had upgraded. The phone rang. Mr. Al-Rashid. Isabella's voice was muffled by airport noise. There's a massive storm in Paris. All flights are grounded. I can't make it in time. I am so sorry. Tariq's blood froze in his veins. No. Showing up alone at the gala would be a public admission of defeat. It would give Soraya the satisfaction of seeing him pathetic and solitary. It would confirm every cruel headline that said he wasn't enough, that he would never be enough. Find another way, he growled into the phone. Charter a helicopter, a private jet, I don't care. Get here. It's impossible, Mr. Al-Rashid. Air traffic control has shut everything down. I'm sorry. The line went dead. Tariq stood in the glass office on the top floor of his $8 billion oil empire, staring down at Dubai shimmering below like a piece of costume jewelry. It was 8:00 p.m. The ball started at 11:00 p.m. 3 hours. 3 hours to find a date or admit defeat. There was a soft knock at the door. He turned, irritated. Nadia Farah walked in clutching a stack of files, and Tariq barely registered her presence. She was just the secretary. The invisible woman who had worked for him for 3 years, fetching coffee and organizing archives. She wore thick Coke bottle glasses that magnified her eyes comically, a traditional shawl completely covering her hair, and an outfit that was an assault on the senses, hot pink paired with burnt orange. The merger documents for... She began in a low voice. Forget the documents, Tariq barked, making her take a startled step back. He ran a hand through his hair, ruining the perfect style. He needed to think. He needed a solution. He needed any sophisticated woman available in Dubai in the next 3 hours. Search, he ordered Nadia without really looking at her. Call every modeling agency, every PR contact, every socialite available in Dubai right now. Any woman who can be ready for the Grand Royal Gala in 3 hours. I'll pay whatever it takes. Nadia blinked behind those grotesque lenses. You want me to... Now! He roared. She scrambled out of the room. Tariq collapsed into his leather chair, feeling panic tighten his stomach like an iron fist. Soraya would be at the ball. She would parade her prince husband like a trophy, and he would show up as the pathetic loser he was. 40 minutes later, Nadia returned, looking defeated. I called every agency, every publicist, every actress I could find, she said softly, fidgeting nervously with her glasses. It's the eve of the biggest event of the year. Everyone is booked. No one is available. 9 p.m. 2 hours left. Tariq looked out the glass window at the illuminated city. Failure burned in his throat like acid. 6 months of planning the perfect revenge, and it was all crumbling because a damn storm in Paris had ruined. He waited. He turned slowly. Nadia was standing there, clutching the files to her chest like a shield, her huge green eyes distorted by the thick lenses, her shawl covering every strand of hair, her body hidden under yards of loud, clashing fabric. The idea that crossed Tariq's mind was absurd, desperate, almost comical. But she was the only option he had. "You," he said, his voice raspy. "Nadia, right?" She blinked, surprised. 3 years working for him, and this was the first time Tariq had said her name out loud. "Yes, sir," she whispered. $50,000 to be my date tonight. Yes or no? Decide now." Silence fell, heavy as lead. Nadia opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes widened even further behind the glasses. Are you serious?" "Dead serious. $50,000 deposited into your account Monday morning. All you have to do is show up at the ball with me for a few hours. Smile, hold my arm, pretend we're a couple." Tariq saw the moment the realization hit her. He saw when Nadia understood this was a choice born of desperation. The last resort. The invisible secretary he hadn't truly looked at in 3 whole years. Summoned only because every real woman had failed. Humiliation flushed her face a bright red. But then she took a deep breath. "How long do I have to decide?" 5 seconds. "My mother is sick. The treatment costs $42,000. My younger brother needs $12,000 for college. We're in debt up to..." Her voice cracked. "Yes, I accept." Wow, 50 grand. Talk about an offer you can't refuse, right? I mean, for that kind of money to help my family? I think I would have said yes in a heartbeat. Honestly, I want to know about you guys. Since Tariq is in Dubai and his model is stuck in Paris, where in the world are you watching this drama unfold from? Drop your state or country in the comments right now. I love seeing how global we are. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens when she steps into that ballroom. Okay, let's get her to the penthouse. Tariq should have felt relief, but something tightened in his chest when he saw the defeat in her eyes. The way she slumped her shoulders, how she accepted being plan B, plan C, plan Z. "Good," he said with a coldness he didn't feel. "I have an emergency glam squad arriving in 20 minutes. Celebrity makeup artist, runway hairstylist, royal stylist. 3 hours to do the impossible." Nadia nodded mechanically. I don't know how to..." "They know," Tariq interrupted. "Just let them work." He dialed his cell, summoning the team with code red urgency. 5 professionals confirmed arrival in 15 minutes, all used to insane requests from billionaire clients. When he hung up, Nadia was still standing there. "Go to my private penthouse on the top floor," Tariq said, avoiding her gaze. "The team will work there. I have a quick meeting with lawyers about the merger. I'll be back at 10:45 p.m. Be ready." She left in silence. Tariq went back to staring out the window, trying to ignore the knot in his stomach. It was a practical solution. A business transaction. $50,000 for a few hours of theater. So why the hell did it feel so wrong? 2 hours and 40 minutes dragged by like torture. Tariq tried to focus on the meeting with the lawyers, but the merger numbers blurred before his eyes. In the private apartment 20 floors up, 5 professionals were working on Nadia like surgeons in an ER. He went up occasionally to check on progress. The first time, at 9 p.m., he saw her bare back as a stylist held up 3 different dresses. Tariq looked away too quickly. The second time, at 9:30 p.m., he heard blow dryers and female voices arguing about makeup shades. He didn't go in. The third time, at 10 p.m., he caught a glimpse of wet hair falling to her waist in black waves while the stylist worked. He froze for 3 seconds before walking away. Every flash of the transformation burned into his retina. A bare shoulder here, dark hair there, golden skin, the curve of a waist. He shook his head, irritated. She was just the secretary, just a business transaction. Just 10:45 p.m. Tariq was in the master bedroom of the penthouse, adjusting his white and gold keffiyeh in front of the mirror. His traditional Arab formal wear was impeccable, a white tunic embroidered with gold threads, a genuine leather belt, the weight of power on his shoulders. There was a knock at the door. "Finally," he murmured, turning his back to adjust his cufflink. "Let's go, we're running." The voice died in his throat. Tariq turned around. The world slowed down, cinematically. Nadia was standing in the doorway, and every atom of oxygen evaporated from his lungs. The dress was liquid silver that hugged curves he never knew existed, a neckline that was modest, yet devastating. Fabric that flowed over her body like mercury, ending in a light train that shimmered with every movement. Her black hair cascaded in waves to her waist, like a waterfall of dark silk, partly pinned in an elegant low bun with loose strands framing her face. The makeup was subtle, but transformative. Golden skin glowing softly, high cheekbones highlighted, lips a natural rose, and the eyes. God in heaven, the eyes. Without the grotesque glasses, they were mesmerizing emerald green, framed by long, dark lashes, slightly upturned at the corners, deep, vulnerable, completely devastating. Tariq literally forgot how to breathe. Nadia's voice came out uncertain, and she nervously touched a loose strand of hair. "I can see very poorly without my glasses. I'll need to hold your arm so I don't trip. I'm sorry if that's inconvenient." He couldn't form words. His brain had turned to useless mush. Nadia was... "Is the dress okay?" she asked, biting her lower lip nervously. "They said it was appropriate for the ball, but I've never worn anything like this. If it's not suitable, I can..." "It's perfect," Tariq interrupted, his voice sounding too rough, too raw, exposing too much. He cleared his throat. He controlled his expression with brutal effort. He extended his arm mechanically. "Let's go," he said, with a coldness that cost him everything to maintain. "We can't be late." Nadia walked toward him with careful steps, her eyes squinting slightly, trying to focus without her glasses. When her delicate fingers closed around his bicep, the touch burned through the fabric of his tunic like a branding iron. Tariq didn't look at her again. He couldn't. Because if he looked, if he really let his brain process what his eyes were seeing, everything would crumble. The elevator descended in tense silence. The Rolls-Royce was waiting at the private entrance. The driver opened the door. Tariq helped Nadia in, feeling her warm skin under his fingers as he held her delicate hand. He sat beside her, maintaining a safe distance. The car glided through the illuminated streets of Dubai. Nadia stared out the window with wide eyes, seeing the blurry city lights. She bit her lip. Her hands trembled slightly in her lap. "It's going to be fine," Tariq said, surprising himself. "You just need to smile, hold my arm, and pretend we're a couple for a few hours. I'll do the rest." She turned her face. Those green eyes pierced him. "Why me?" Nadia asked softly. "Why didn't you cancel and go alone?" The honest question cut deep. "Because showing up alone would be admitting defeat," Tariq answered with a brutal honesty he hadn't planned. "And I don't accept defeat." "So I am a shield," she said without emotion. "Armor against humiliation." "Yes." Nadia nodded slowly, turning back to the window. "At least you're honest." The silence returned. But now it was loaded with something heavy and uncomfortable. 10 minutes later, the Rolls-Royce pulled up to the entrance of the Dubai Opera House, transformed into a gala venue. A red carpet stretched for 60 feet. Photographers waited like hungry vultures. Limousines offloaded royalty and billionaires from all over the world. "Ready?" Tariq asked. "No," Nadia replied with raw honesty. "But let's go." The double doors of the car opened. Security took their positions. Flashes exploded. Tariq stepped out first, adjusting his keffiyeh with a practiced movement. He extended a hand to Nadia. She took it, trembling. When she stepped out of the car and stood beside him, there was a second of absolute silence. Then the cameras went wild. Flashes detonated like light bombs. Photographers shouted questions. Journalists thrust microphones forward. "Sheikh Al-Rashid, who is she? What is your date's name? Is it serious?" Tariq ignored it all. He offered his arm. Nadia gripped it with a force that should have hurt, the grip of a terrified person holding onto a life raft in a stormy sea. They walked down the red carpet. The double doors of glass and gold opened to the Grand Royal Hall. 800 guests chatted in groups under crystal chandeliers that cost more than small countries. An orchestra played classical Arab music. Tables decorated with exotic flowers and floating candles created a fairy tale atmosphere. When Tariq and Nadia appeared at the top of the white marble staircase, the room fell silent. Completely. Absolutely. Silent. 800 pairs of eyes turned simultaneously. Nadia froze beside Tariq. Her fingers tightened on his arm in panic. "Breathe," he whispered, for her ears only. "Chin up, smile. Show them you belong here." "I don't belong here," she whispered back, her voice shaking. "For tonight, you do." He took the first step down. Nadia stumbled slightly on the second step, blind without her glasses. Tariq caught her by the waist in a protective reflex, stabilizing her. To the world, it looked like the possessive gesture of a man marking his territory. But Tariq felt her body trembling against his. He felt her racing heart. He felt the fear. And something primitive and fierce exploded in his chest. A need to protect, to cover, to let nothing hurt her. They descended the 20 steps in absolute silence. When they stepped onto the marble floor, the orchestra resumed playing. Conversations restarted, gradually rising in volume. But the stares continued. Analyzing, judging, speculating. Who is she? Never seen her before. Doesn't look like Gulf elite. Is she a European model? Tariq scanned the crowd for Soraya. He spotted her near the head table. She was stunning in a blood-red dress, black hair in a sophisticated bun, emerald jewels at her throat. The prince's husband beside her was blonde and generic. When Soraya's eyes met Tariq's, she paled. Then she looked at Nadia, and the jealousy that twisted her face should have filled Tariq with triumphant satisfaction. But in that moment, Nadia stumbled again. He caught her automatically, turning to check if she was okay. She lifted those green eyes to him, absolute vulnerability swimming in the emerald depths. "I'm sorry," Nadia whispered. "I keep misstepping. I can't see properly." "Hold on tighter," Tariq heard his own voice say. "I won't let you fall." Something flickered across her face. Surprise, perhaps. Or fragile hope. They continued through the room. An Italian ambassador approached, joking about politics. Nadia laughed, nervous but genuine. A melodious, real sound. A Kuwaiti sheikh commented on the oil market. A Russian businesswoman proposed a partnership. Tariq made automatic conversation, but every cell in his body was hyper-aware of Nadia. How she bit her lip when nervous. How she tilted her head, listening intently. How her hands trembled slightly, holding a glass of champagne she didn't drink. At midnight, the orchestra played a waltz. Couples filled the dance floor. "Dance?" Tariq offered, purely out of social convention. Nadia went pale. I don't really know how to dance." "Classic waltz, I mean. I'll step on your feet. It doesn't matter." He guided her to the floor before she could refuse. He placed a hand on her waist, held her small, warm hand with the other. The waltz began. Nadia indeed stepped on his foot on the third beat. "Sorry," she whispered, horrified. "Relax," Tariq murmured, guiding her with gentle pressure on her waist. "Just follow my lead." Fourth step, she stepped on him again. "I warned you," Nadia groaned softly. "I'm terrible at this." "Close your eyes," he instructed. "What?" "Close your eyes. Stop trying to look at the steps. Feel the music, trust me." She hesitated, then she closed her eyes. And something shifted. Nadia relaxed slightly. She let Tariq guide her. She followed the rhythm of his body instead of trying to see her feet. They danced. Not perfectly. She still stumbled sometimes, but there was something deeply intimate in the way she trusted his lead completely, how she surrendered to the movement. Tariq pulled her closer. Her body pressed against his. He felt every curve, every breath, the heat burning through layers of fabric. Her scent drifted up, jasmine and vanilla with something purely feminine underneath that made his brain short-circuit. When the waltz ended, they stood in the middle of the floor for 3 seconds longer than was appropriate, staring at each other, breathing hard, something electric buzzing in the air between their bodies. "Thank you for not letting me fall," Nadia whispered. "Always," Tariq replied before he could think. Polite applause broke the moment. They separated, retreated to the edges of the room. At 1 a.m., Tariq suggested getting some air on the private terrace. The truth was, the hall was too hot, and he needed cold air to cool a head and body that were reacting to Nadia in completely inappropriate ways. The terrace stretched out overlooking Dubai, lit up like a terrestrial galaxy. Only 10 or 12 people were chatting in small groups under the starry sky. Nadia walked to the balustrade, looking at the city with wide eyes. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "You're doing perfectly," Tariq said, and it wasn't a lie. She turned, surprised. "Really? Really? No one suspects a thing?" Something crossed her face. Disappointment, perhaps. "What an interesting date." The voice cut like a poisoned blade. Tariq turned. Soraya Al-Mazin was 10 feet away, her red dress shimmering under the soft terrace lights. A cruel smile curved her perfect lips. "Soraya," Tariq said, his voice neutral. "Tariq," she replied with fake sweetness. Her eyes raked over Nadia from head to toe, analyzing, judging, destroying. "I haven't met your companion. Who is the lady?" "Nadia," Tariq answered curtly. "Nadia," Soraya repeated, tasting the name like poison. She took a step closer, her smile sharpening. "Her face looks familiar. Wait, aren't you his secretary?" Silence fell, heavy. Nadia stiffened beside Tariq. Soraya laughed, a crystalline, cruel sound. "That's it. The office secretary. How creative, Tariq. How absolutely pathetic to hire your own employee to pretend you have a girlfriend." 10 people on the terrace stopped talking, turned their attention to the drama unfolding. Nadia blushed bright red. Her shoulders slumped slightly, and Tariq felt rage explode in his chest like a nuclear bomb. "Watch your words, Soraya," he said, his voice dangerously low. "Why?" she retorted, turning to the growing audience. "It's the truth. He was so desperate not to show up alone that he paid his secretary to pretend to be a sophisticated date. Look at that. They even got a decent dress. But we all know underneath, she's still just the hired help." Nadia trembled. A tear escaped, sliding down her cheek. Something broke inside Tariq. He pulled Nadia by the waist with a sharp movement, spinning her to face him. One hand came up to her face, wiping the tear away with his thumb. The other pressed into the curve of her waist. "Nadia," he said, for her ears only. She lifted green eyes full of pain and humiliation, and Tariq tilted his head and kissed her. The kiss was supposed to be strategic theater, a performance to hurt Soraya. Calculated revenge. But when his lips touched hers, everything evaporated. Nadia froze for half a second, then she melted completely against him. Her lips parted in a shocked gasp. Her hands came up to his neck, fingers burying in his short hair. She kissed him back with unexpected, devastating urgency. Tariq deepened the kiss, pulled her closer, impossibly closer, tasted, explored, claimed. She tasted like champagne and sweetness. She tasted like hope and vulnerability. She tasted like home, and the thing he didn't know he was looking for. When they finally broke apart, gasping for air, Tariq had completely forgotten where he was. Forgotten there was an audience. Forgotten Soraya. There was only the woman in his arms, emerald eyes wide and shining, lips swollen from the kiss, breathing fast, chest rising and falling. Was that convincing? Nadia whispered. The words hit him like a bucket of ice water. She thought it was acting. Theater to fool the ex. Tariq opened his mouth, closed it. All words evaporated. Very convincing, he heard his own voice lie. Something died in her eyes. The light went out. The hope evaporated. Nadia took a step back, leaving his embrace. She composed her expression with visible effort. "Great," she said in a flat voice. "Then mission accomplished." Tariq didn't look at Soraya. Didn't check if his ex was jealous or angry or anything. He couldn't take his eyes off Nadia. The way she built walls, closed doors, returned to being invisible, even while wearing liquid silver and with her hair loose. 2:30 a.m., the ball began to thin out. Tariq and Nadia returned to the Rolls-Royce in heavy silence. The car glided through the empty streets of Dubai. Neither of them spoke. Nadia stared out the window with a distant expression. Tariq stared at his own hands, trying to understand the hollowness in his chest. 20 minutes later, they stopped in front of a modest building in the suburbs. Yellowish lights, peeling paint, laundry hanging from balconies. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Al-Rashid," Nadia said with brutal formality. "The money will be in your account Monday morning." She opened the door before he could respond. Stepped out in a fluid motion despite the high heels. Tariq watched her walk up the stairs, the silver dress shining under the weak streetlights. She didn't look back, didn't wave, simply disappeared through the third-floor door. The driver waited for instructions. Tariq punched the leather seat with brutal force, startling the man. "Back to the penthouse," he growled. The entire way back, the only thing he could think about was the taste of that kiss, and how he had just let something precious slip away without understanding exactly what it was. Monday, 8 a.m. Nadia Farah arrived at the office back in her uniform of invisibility. Coke bottle glasses magnifying her eyes grotesquely. Traditional shawl covering every strand of hair. An Arab outfit in hot pink and burnt orange that offended any aesthetic sense. She sat at her usual workstation, turned on the computer, opened spreadsheets, organized documents. She tried desperately to pretend Saturday night had been a fever dream. That for 5 hours she had been a desirable woman on the arm of a powerful man. That the kiss had meant something beyond calculated theater. Lies. All lies. The elevator doors opened at 9 a.m. Tariq Al-Rashid walked in wearing an impeccable charcoal gray suit, leather briefcase in hand, expression closed and professional. He walked straight past Nadia's station without looking. Entered the glass office. Closed the door. Nadia took a deep breath, ignoring the pain piercing her chest like knives. Went back to typing reports. Everything was back to normal. She was the invisible secretary. He was the powerful sheikh. And Saturday night had never happened. At 10 a.m., Nadia checked her bank account on her phone. $50,000 deposited. Payment for services rendered. She closed the app with trembling hands. Tuesday morning, the world exploded. Nadia woke up to 47 messages on her phone. She turned it on, confused. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, notifications flooding in from every direction. She opened Instagram with shaking hands. The first post she saw was from Soraya Almazine. A photo from the ball, Nadia in the silver dress next to Tariq, a moment before the kiss. Caption in bold letters: "The desperate sheikh. Meet the secretary he hired to pretend he had a girlfriend at the Grand Royal Gala. He was so pathetic and lonely he paid his own employee to fool society. How embarrassing. Fake romance. Shame on you. Cinderella scam." The post had 2 million views, 20,000 comments. Nadia scrolled with trembling fingers, reading, "The ugly secretary who pretended to be a princess for a night lol. Imagine the humiliation of being so rejected you have to bribe the maid. She should be ashamed taking that money. Go back to your place. Fake Cinderella, pathetic sheikh plus sold-out secretary. Perfect match." Nadia dropped the phone like it burned, took 3 deep breaths. She didn't cry. She was not going to cry. She got up, put on the invisibility uniform, put on the grotesque glasses, arrived at the office at 8:15 a.m. Colleagues whispered as she passed. Someone had taped a printout of her with glasses next to the photo from the ball on the hallway wall. Caption in red letters: "Before after the Photoshop of life." Laughter exploded from groups of employees. Nadia walked with her head held high to her workstation, sat down, turned on the computer, started working, ignored her smartphone beeping with new notifications, ignored the group of secretaries laughing too loud near her desk, ignored the finance assistant muttering, Is 50 grand a good price for prostitution? She worked. At 2:15 p.m., Tariq left the glass office for the first time that day. Walked past Nadia's station. Stopped. She felt his gaze boring into the top of her head, but didn't lift her eyes from the screen. "Nadia," he said in a low voice. "Yes, Mr. Al-Rashid," she replied with automatic professionalism. Long pause. "How are you?" "Fine, sir. Do you need a report?" Another pause. "No, just checking." "I'm fine," she lied. "Excuse me, I need to finish the merger spreadsheet." He stood there for 5 more seconds, then went back to his office. Wednesday was worse. A TV show dedicated an entire segment to the scandal. Was the powerful Sheikh Al-Rashid so humiliated by his ex-fiancée that he had to pay for a date? And what about poor secretary Nadia Farah, who agreed to humiliate herself for dirty money? Let's analyze this pathetic story. The presenter showed photos of the ball, close-ups of Nadia. Look, she's actually pretty in the photo, but day to day she's completely different. Works in huge glasses and awful clothes. Clearly took the money out of desperation. Audience laughter. Nadia watched 5 minutes before turning off the TV. Went to work. Found an anonymous note on her desk. How much for the whole night after the ball? She crumpled the paper with brutal force, threw it in the trash, went back to work. From the glass office, Tariq watched. He saw her slumped shoulders, the trembling hands, the way she pretended not to hear when colleagues laughed, and he wanted to destroy every person hurting her. But he was paralyzed. Because protecting her publicly meant admitting she mattered, and admitting that meant admitting he had lost control. That the invisible secretary had torn down all his defenses in a single night. Thursday evening, 7:30 p.m., Nadia knocked on Tariq's office door. The building was empty. Just the two of them. "Come in," he said. She entered with straight posture. Closed the door. Stood in front of the desk, still wearing the grotesque glasses, still hiding her hair under the traditional shawl. "I resign," Nadia said firmly. "Effective immediately. Thank you for 3 years of employment, Mr. Al-Rashid." Tariq shot up from his chair as if he'd been shot in the chest. "Resign? Why?" She laughed humorlessly. "Because I've become an international joke. Because I can't stand colleagues laughing at me anymore. Because..." Her voice cracked. "Because I was an idiot to forget for 5 hours that I am the ugly secretary no one looks at. And now I'm paying the price." Tears streamed down behind the glasses. She wiped them away angrily, hating the weakness. Tariq rounded the desk in 3 long strides, stopped inches from her. "You aren't ugly," he said, voice rough and raw. "You never were." Nadia gave a bitter laugh. "You don't need to lie, Mr. Al-Rashid. I know exactly what I am. Saturday was a fantasy created by expensive makeup artists, and a dress that costs my annual salary. Cinderella turned back into the maid after midnight. I was naive to forget that." "You are not ugly!" The outburst startled them both. Tariq took a deep breath, trying to grip onto control that was slipping through his fingers. "Why did you go back to wearing these awful clothes?" he asked, voice tense. "These grotesque glasses? Why do you hide?" Nadia stared at him, emerald green eyes swimming in tears behind the thick lenses. "Because this is who I really am. The other one was a temporary illusion. You transformed me for 3 hours, so you wouldn't be alone at the ball. It doesn't change who I am. And what if I want the woman from the ball?" The words escaped before Tariq could catch them. Nadia shook her head, tears falling faster. "You want revenge against Soraya. You want to prove you moved on, but you don't want me for real. I'm convenient. I forgot Soraya existed!" The shout echoed through the empty office. Absolute silence fell. Tariq ran his hands over his face, destroying the careful composure he'd maintained for days. "When you walked in wearing that dress," he said, voice broken. "When you held my arm. When you stepped on my foot during the waltz, I completely forgot why I was at the ball. I forgot revenge. I forgot humiliation. I forgot Soraya. I only saw you." Nadia shook her head, taking a step back. You were programmed for revenge for 6 months. One night doesn't erase that. Maybe not, Tariq admitted, voice low and raw and honest. But that kiss erased it. She froze. He took a step forward, closing the distance. When I kissed you and you kissed me back, when you melted in my arms like it was the most natural thing in the world, I realized I spent 6 months obsessed with the wrong woman, because the right one was sitting 15 feet away from me for 3 whole years, and I was too blind, too proud, too stupid to see. I can't be her every day, Nadia whispered, absolute vulnerability tearing at her voice. I don't have money for $200,000 dresses. I don't know how to walk in heels without tripping. I don't know how to be sophisticated or elegant. I'm the girl with the ugly glasses and awful clothes supporting her family on a secretary's salary. Tariq took another step, invaded her personal space completely. I don't want expensive dresses, he said, voice dropping to an intense whisper. I want the woman who laughs at stupid jokes, who apologizes when she steps on my foot, who trembles with fear but lifts her chin pretending to be brave. I want... He raised his hand slowly, giving her all the time in the world to pull away. She didn't pull away. Tariq gently removed the grotesque glasses. Those emerald green eyes appeared, wide and vulnerable and devastating. I want you, he whispered. This you, the real one. Not the fantasy created by stylists, the real woman who hides behind ugly glasses because she's afraid of being seen. You don't really know me, Nadia whispered, but she didn't move away. Then let me get to know you. Tariq tilted his head slowly, giving her time. She didn't retreat. The kiss was completely different from the ball. There was no theatrical urgency, no audience, no revenge. It was slow, questioning, vulnerable. Tariq held her face between his hands, thumbs tracing cheekbones wet with tears. He savored her lips as if he had all the time in the world. Nadia sighed against his mouth, hands coming up to grip his shirt like she was drowning, and he was a life raft. When they broke apart, she was crying again, but differently. This is crazy, Nadia whispered. Completely, Tariq agreed, resting his forehead against hers. But Saturday night I realized 6 months of planned revenge mean nothing compared to 3 hours of reality with you. And the last 4 days unable to stop thinking about you confirmed it. People will say it's a scam, that I'm using you for money. Let them talk. Your reputation is worth nothing if it means losing you. Nadia stared at him, eyes searching for lies, finding only raw truth. Are you sure? She whispered. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Friday morning, 2:00 p.m., Soraya played her final card, called a press conference at a 5-star hotel. Cameras from 30 countries broadcast live. Soraya walked in wearing an immaculate white dress, perfect makeup, expression of an innocent victim. I come today to clarify terrible lies, she began, voice trembling. Tariq Al-Rashid harassed me for months since my wedding. Called me, sent me gifts, begged me to come back. When I refused, he hired his own secretary as a paid mistress to make me jealous. It is obsessive, disturbing behavior from a man who cannot accept rejection. Reporters erupted with questions. Do you have proof of the harassment? Will you sue? Did the secretary know she was part of a scheme? Nadia watched from her apartment living room. She had taken Friday off, emotionally exhausted. She watched Soraya cry fake tears for the cameras, and felt her heart sink. Tariq would deny it, would deny the relationship, would protect his image as powerful men always did. Everything they had talked about Thursday night would evaporate under public pressure. But at 3:00 p.m., a notification appeared on all news channels. Breaking, Sheikh Al-Rashid calls emergency press conference in 30 minutes. Nadia froze on the sofa, heart hammering. 3:30 p.m., she turned on the TV with shaking hands. Tariq walked into the auditorium of his corporate building with a closed, dangerous expression. Impeccable black suit. Posture of a man who controlled empires. Sat in front of the cameras. Stared into the lenses with dark, intense eyes. I will clarify this once and for all, he began with a firm voice that brooked no argument. Soraya Al-Mazin is lying blatantly about harassment. I have absolutely zero interest in her since she left me at the altar 6 months ago. I didn't call, didn't send gifts, didn't engage. I have phone records and emails proving this, and my lawyers will be suing for defamation. Dramatic pause. Regarding Nadia Farah, the world held its breath. Nadia held her breath. Nadia worked for me for 3 years as an exemplary and efficient secretary. I took her to the Grand Royal Gala initially as an emergency solution when my original date canceled, yes. But during that night, Tariq stopped, took a deep breath. When he spoke again, his voice was rawer, more human. I realized she is the most extraordinary woman I have ever met. I spent 6 months wasting energy on pathetic revenge against an ex-fiancée not worth a second of thought. I wasted half a year obsessed with the wrong woman while the right one was there the whole time. Absolute silence in the auditorium. Tariq looked directly into the main camera. Nadia is not a paid mistress. She is not part of a scheme. She is the woman I am falling in love with. If she'll give me that chance, and anyone who insults her, who hurts her, who dares speak ill of her. His gaze darkened dangerously. Will have to deal with me. He stood up. No further questions. And walked out amidst an explosion of flashes and shouting reporters. Nadia was paralyzed on the sofa, tears streaming down her face, hand covering her mouth. He had publicly declared. The doorbell rang 20 minutes later. She opened the door with eyes swollen from crying. Tariq was there, breathless as if he had run up the 20 flights from the car. I came personally, he said, out of breath, because you deserve to hear it without cameras. Nadia couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. I love you, Tariq continued, words tumbling out. Or I'm falling so fast it'll be the same thing in a few days. I know it's crazy. I know we barely know each other outside of boss secretary. But I want to know you. I want to take you on real dates. I want to hear about your family, your dreams, your favorite food. I love you too, Nadia interrupted. The confession came out wet with tears, but absolutely firm. It's insane and terrifying, but it's true. I love you, Tariq. I think I've loved you since the first time you stumbled over my feet during the waltz and didn't yell at me. He laughed, a surprised, relieved, completely happy sound, then pulled her into a devastating kiss right there in the doorway of the modest apartment. Photographers who had followed Tariq captured it all, but neither of them cared. When they finally broke apart, Tariq whispered, "Cancel the resignation, but not as a secretary. As a girlfriend who still doesn't know how to wear high heels and will trip a lot." Nadia laughed through her tears. As a girlfriend who sucks at waltzing? As a girlfriend, I'm going to spend the rest of my life protecting, getting to know, loving, Tariq corrected, and kissed her again. 3 months later. Nadia Farah woke up in silk sheets in the king-size bed of the apartment Tariq insisted they share. Dubai sunlight streamed through translucent curtains. A strong arm pulled her back against a warm, firm chest. 5 more minutes, Tariq murmured sleepily against her hair. I have class in an hour, Nadia protested, but snuggled back in. 3 months. 3 months since she stopped being a secretary and became a business student at an expensive private university Tariq paid for after a heated argument about charity versus investing in a partner. 3 months wearing new glasses with stylish frames she chose herself. 3 months wearing simple clothes but without the offensive color combinations Tariq begged her to stop wearing. 3 months being seen, known, loved. Cancel class, Tariq suggested, kissing her bare shoulder. Stay with me. You have a meeting with the King of Qatar in 2 hours. I'll cancel. Nadia turned in his arms, meeting dark eyes still puffy with sleep. Messy hair, stubble. Perfect. You aren't canceling a multi-million-dollar meeting for me, she said firmly. I already canceled 3 this month. Exactly. Your investors are going to kill you. Tariq smiled, that slow, devastating smile that still made her heart skip a beat. Worth it. He kissed her slowly, savoring, as if they had all the time in the world. When they broke apart, Nadia traced his jawline with gentle fingers. You really love me, don't you? Really, Tariq confirmed without hesitation. So really that I've already ordered a ring. She froze. What? Engagement ring. Arriving next week. Green emerald to match your eyes. I'm going to propose at a desert picnic I'm planning. Tariq! Nadia swatted his chest lightly. You just ruined the surprise. Then pretend to be surprised when I get down on one knee. You are impossible. And you love me anyway. Nadia smiled, resting her forehead against his. I do. So much that sometimes I still think I'm going to wake up and none of this will be real. It's real, Tariq promised. As real as the fact that I'm going to be late for the meeting with Qatar if you keep looking at me like that. She laughed, getting out of bed. Then stopped looking back. Impossible. 2 weeks later, Vogue Arabia published a cover story. The Sheikh and the Cinderella. The unlikely love story that conquered the world. Nadia read the headline and laughed. I don't like the Cinderella comparison, she commented to Tariq over breakfast on the terrace overlooking the desert. Cinderella needed a fairy godmother and a glass slipper. I just needed someone to finally really see me. Tariq took her hand across the table, interlacing their fingers. I spent 3 years looking without seeing, he said softly. 3 years blind to what was right in front of me. Thank you for giving me a second chance to get it right. Thank you for finally looking, Nadia replied. And when he pulled her into a kiss under the desert sun, they both knew the truth. Sometimes planned revenge takes you exactly where you needed to be, just for completely the wrong reasons, to find completely the right person. And sometimes the extraordinary woman you're looking for is disguised as invisible, just waiting for someone to take the trouble to truly see. And just like that, the invisible secretary became the only thing he could see. If you love stories where the underdog wins and love actually shows up when you least expect it, make sure you join our family by hitting that subscribe button. But hey, don't let the romance hangover hit you just yet. I've picked another story on the screen right now that has just as much drama and passion. Trust me, you're going to obsess over this one too. Click right there to keep the journey going, and I'll see you in the next one.